All right, so Steve has an nvarchar 255 column that he knows will never have more than 30 characters. Will it take extra space to store this column, and will there be a performance penalty?
So it's already using double since you're using the N varchar and not just varchar. It's Unicode, so it's going to be using say 60 bytes instead of 30. But is it going to use more space? No. But why? I've seen developers want to do this where they just want to have every single column standardized to the same data types and size. Yeah, I don't understand that reasoning except for laziness. It doesn't take long to figure out what each column should be. What
Yeah, I
happens
think
if it ever
like my,
will
my
have
main issue with it,
multiplicated?
it's like from a development standpoint, is SQL's error messages for if you try to insert too much data into a column
Yeah.
suck. It's like string or binary data might be truncated. And you're like, oh, I'll just go figure out which column that was because the error message doesn't tell you, nothing tells you. So you have to go back and guess a million times. So I understand why developers are like, let's just make this a 255 because it's a variable length column anyway. It's not gonna mess anything up. But you know, figuring out the right length should be a priority at some point because you may have inserted incorrect data into a column if you give it too long of a length. If it's more than it will ever be, more than it could ever reasonably be. But I understand why developers want to do it because tracking down those errors sucks.
Let's see if I know. All right, so I think that's the end of that question. That's a super vague question. All right, talk for hours or 30 seconds on that one.
I was gonna dance.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, Jason says their performance monitoring tool is showing that OS CPU is around 25%, but the instance CPU that they're getting from a DMV is running around 80 to 90%. It has been suggested our counters are messed up and to unload and reload these counters. Any experience on doing that?
I have many years ago. I don't remember what it was, but back in the day, there were lots of issues with performance counters. I just don't remember what you have to do. You could just restart SQL Server or the box to possibly fix this issue. That was one of the solutions back in the day. But yeah, you've definitely got something messed up here because the ring buffers should show the same CPU utilization as what Performance Monitor Task Manager is showing.
Yeah, I've had to reset them a couple of times when I was doing when I like actually from when you clone a machine and you turn into a VM, a lot of performance counters get screwed up. Like a lot of them just don't even show up anymore. So I had to like mess with loading and reloading them. If I remember correctly, they were pretty simple DOS commands,
Yeah.
but they weren't like
Yeah, I
I don't
don't
remember
remember
them
what they
because
are.
I lost my notes on that. Sorry.
Sounds like a blog post, Eric.
No, it's already
Richie,
out.
Richie, your blogging has been pretty light lately. If you want to take that one, it's all you.
Yes,
I
this
leave that
is
in your
true.
capable hands.
But I've been working, so there's that.
Yeah. See all those pictures from
Oh.
Disneyland, hard worker.
Disney World. Disneyland's a
Whatever.
different place.
Uh, Folks, if you want your questions answered, you have to type them.
All right. I see one
Ah,
here from I see one here about deadlocks.
I
And
saw
there's a
that one.
dude,
final
that movie was
see
great. I love
deadlock.
Angie
that
says,
movie.
"Yep."
The difference between Jessica and I reading it, I know when you guys aren't going to want to answer some of these.
You can go ahead and ask it.
All right, so for a
We have nothing else
deadlock
to do.
from Adil's Web, um, when there is a file growth, we see deadlock, and the object identified is one of the indexes. Is there a way to debug this related to storage or I/O?
So I would be
Wow.
looking definitely at your I/O. How long is that growth taking? And if it's on the data files, do you have instant file initialization set up? Because if it's not set up, then it has to zero out the file, and that can take a while depending upon how slow your storage is. The log file you can't use instant file initialization, but the data files can. So take a look at the perform volume maintenance tasks inside the local security policy on your box and see if the SQL Service account is a member of that privilege. And if it's not, you should add it and restart SQL.
During a maintenance window. Not
yes. Not now.
Right now. Don't tell your boss we told you to do it right now.
I would also be looking at performance monitor counters. Average, look at the logical disk counter, the average disk seconds reads and writes, and if your values are over, say, 20 milliseconds, you potentially have a storage, an I/O slowness issue. The values are going to be in decimal, though, so it's 0.020, I believe, is 20 milliseconds.
Whatever she said. I don't.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Here's a good one from Greg. Is it varchar or varchar? What do you guys say?
I actually say varchar, but since you guys had already said varchar, I went with it.
Wow.
I always say varchar because it's a variable of character.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a character.
Yeah.
I do say varchar, but I see why people say varchar. I think most people do say varchar. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of developers and DBAs in the past 20 years, and most people say varchar.
In Boston, it's a vaca, though. That's fine.
I also recently heard that it should be varchar because variable character. So like you were saying, Eric, but I was like, that just sounds funny. Like it sounds like a Care Bear character, maybe.
I think the real question, though, is if do you say SQL or SQL? That's an important one.
I don't have time for SQL.
Yeah. Microsoft, is the one who created the product, and they specifically said on the Wikipedia page it was pronounced SQL and not SQL. And people from different languages had a problem with it because when they see the letters SQL, it does not pronounce SQL to them. So Microsoft changed the Wikipedia page to say it can be pronounced either way. But the original product was pronounced SQL Server.
Well, it is a
there was this big debate on the Wikipedia page. I don't know, like 10 years ago or so.
Which brings us to another interesting question: is it wiki or wiki?
Oh, I don't know.
Wiki. What about data or data?
Data. Data drives
Captain
me crazy.
Picard called them data, so it's data.
Yes.
Captain Picard is always right.
I like data too. It also sounds kind of funny, database, because of the off A's.
Yeah.
All right, A Deals has another question. What do you guys think about TDE with mirroring or replication? And are there any alternates to TDE?
Not within SQL Server. TDE is what you get, and that's an enterprise-only feature. If you use it alongside any other feature, it's going to be interesting because TDE breaks a lot of stuff. TDE, it encrypts temp DB, and it also breaks instant file initialization because you have to write out a bunch of junk. So it's totally fine to use the features together, just be aware of how they operate next to each other.
Sean says they have a server with 20 cores, but they're only running standard edition that only supports 16 cores. Is there a negative performance impact with this configuration?
There is if you have to cross NUMA nodes for some things.
So when would you see that scenario? Do they have to have a specific number of NUMA nodes for it to come into play, or they already have too many NUMA nodes?
So is it how many CPUs? So I get that it's 20 cores, but how many?
So if we had two CPUs.
Oh wait, hold on.
It doesn't
Yeah,
say
one
VM.
ESXi server, VM1 uses 20 cores.
No, the one below that.
VM2. Oh.
The one from Sean.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I didn't read the giant one.
Depends, Sean. 2 CPUs, so no, probably not. Because you would be hitting. On the other hand, if something hits, one of your, I don't know. That's foggy to me. Probably not, but it's not something it's not ideal. It's not something that I'd aim for. It sounds like someone bought like the dual 10-core CPUs, thinking that they were going to be really fast and awesome, but they're probably like a really low clock speed or something, which is what most dual 10-core CPUs are. So for something like standard edition, we usually recommend, getting like dual 2, 4, 6, or 8, whatever the highest clock speed is, because, you go up to 16 and you get the fastest processors really to push your workload through. Dual 10-core chips usually have a much lower clock speed and kind of stink.
Yeah. I'm just going to follow up, Dennis. Sorry, sad face. That license question, that's a big license question. We're not Microsoft. We don't charge you, so I would talk to your Microsoft rep or your software vendor rep. Ask them how you're going to get charged. Someone else, sorry. But there was a question. Oh, I think, Richie, I want to hear from you from Brandon's question.
There we go.
Do you recommend any tools for documenting changes in SQL scripts? How about documenting SQL Server? Right now, they use Excel and a lot of worksheet tabs to document their SQL servers.
So I don't have any recommendations for any tools that do this. We always had, at least every organization I've been in, we've had pretty rigorous change control. So all the scripts would be not only put into like version control system like Git, but they would also go down to test, pre-production, and then finally a production area. So we usually didn't have that big of a problem because all the changes were being tested as it went down the train, the pipeline. So as far as documenting SQL Server, I know there's a couple products out there. I would just try them out and see how they work for you.
Yeah, Renegade has a tool called SQL Doc that works all right.
Yeah, I've written kind of my own tools as I kind of saw fit. So, but we didn't have any really big documentation requirements either. So it depends on your requirements and your budget and how much you're willing to put into it.
I bet someone out there who really likes PowerShell and really wants to tell you all about PowerShell has written something that documents SQL servers.
Yeah. There's a guy here in Florida, a couple hours up the road here. He spent many years working on a PowerShell documenter, so that's probably a good one to check out.
There we go.
Kendall Van Dyke's, what was that? SQL Power Documenter or something like that? That's a
PowerDoc, is it?
PowerDoc, that may be it. Maybe. Because everything must be
powered. Someone walking by your window.
Yeah.
Dude, it's the mailman! Oh my gosh!
He's already that way.
He's at my door still.
Wait, your dogs are going to start barking. Oh.
I don't have to.
There he goes again.
Okay,
all right, who's next?
Jason, he wants to know if there's a way to monitor when SQL decides to change plans or use a bad plan. He knows in 2016 they're introducing Query Store, but what can he do for 2008 R2 or 2014?
I'll tell you what I implemented at my the job that I was at for 12 years. We had a very, very critical system that we'd have severe performance issues. A bad plan would happen for a critical store procedure. And every single time I just recompile the store procedure, and that would take away, the entire system would start performing better because the bad plan would cause really high CPU. So what I did is I used the ring buffers DMB that was mentioned in an earlier question, and I wrote a store procedure to query that and to monitor CPU utilization, because I knew that CPU utilization would remain at, say, 30% during the day when this issue didn't occur, but it would go above 60%, 80, 90%. So I would, monitor CPU utilization and then check the number over like 3 minutes, and if it's at a high number across several samples, I would then look at the plan cache, what was using the most CPU in the plan cache, and then recompile that object. Then it would wait a minute and then check to see if it improved. If it didn't improve, it would then recompile the next one at the top of the CPU list, and that caused it to not have to wake me up in the middle of the night or not have to manually recompile store procedures. So you do have that option. The ring buffers DMB gives you CPU utilization, and you just need to write code to do this work for you.
So
yeah, if monitoring the ring buffers is difficult or beyond your grasp, SP Blitz Cache can help a lot with that. So what you'll see You run SP blitz cache by CPU. You'll see you may see a line for your stored procedure, and then you may see a separate line for the text of the stored procedure that has higher average CPU or reads or something, or a max worker time or something like that. Has like just sort of different averages that make you think, okay, this statement may have gotten the wrong plan, or this state something is amok because the stored procedure has these numbers, but the statement has these numbers. So you could see some differences there. If you're feeling really fancy in 2014, you can also use extended events to capture when plans recompile. And I wouldn't grab query plans along with it, maybe, because that's a dodgy enterprise in extended events, but it certainly is an option.
But maybe storing the results of blitz cache into a table, and then comparing the average CPU, average reads, and if it's off by a certain percentage, then you know that you possibly know that the plan difference is enough to have caused an issue and that you have a bad plan.
Yep. There's some like really interesting parameters in SP blitz cache that I've never used. Like you can set up variances for like the difference between those things, so that if it's over a certain amount, it'll warn you about it. But usually there will just be a sort of general warning for parameter sniffing, where it will tell you all about that.
Good information, guys. So Mike says that they're addicted to replication. Sorry, Mike. There might be pills for that now. But they're moving to AWS EC2. Any comments on replication in the EC2 section of the cloud?
I don't have any specific, experience with this, but I would probably just be, concerned about latency between the publisher and the subscriber. Because, or I should say, between the publisher and the distributor, and the subscriber. So between, because the publisher doesn't connect directly to the subscriber, goes to the distributor. Make sure that it's flowing nicely, because any kind of backlog on the distributor, subscriber, or publisher, can cause the whole, for you to take production down if you run out of log space while all the replication log records are being stored in the publisher log file.
Yeah, like one thing that about EC2 instances is that you have to pay for a pretty large box before you get over sort of the initial networking bandwidth hump of 125 megs a second, I think. So when you get, if you're really pushing a lot of data across, I would pay a lot of attention to the type of box I'm on and how much network bandwidth I'm utilizing and all the other stuff. If there's any latency, I would really want to keep really close eye on latency, whether it's network or just between all the boxes.
I saw that, Richie. Did anybody read the permanently storing objects in TempDB blog?
No, I only read my own blog post, sorry.
Who wrote it? Was it one of ours?
It went live today, so.
Okay, no, I didn't read it.
Brent wrote it.
I didn't get to it yet. I'm backlogged on all of Erick's while I was gone.
Not me, Brent, not Erick. WebEx Brent, real Brent wrote it.
The real Brent wrote it.
Yeah.
He still works here?
Yeah, well, define work.
It shows up in chat once in a while.
I know, that's
I thought
Erica.
that was Erica. Yeah, that was Erica.
Oh, I did read this when he had it, before it got published. Is there a specific question on it, or?
Just what do we think about it?
Oh. I mean, I don't think that TempDB should be a place where you store objects permanently. If you need to store objects permanently, set up a database for it.
Great post, Brent.
Or Brett.
Great post, Brenda.
All right, well, since we really have no more questions and 7-8 minutes left, we'll follow up with Brandon's if there are no questions question. Does anybody have a favorite feature from SQL 2016? Or is there anything that you wish made it into 2016 that didn't?
I think we can probably all agree to the query store. We're all looking forward to using that, but it appears to be an Enterprise Edition only feature.
No,
which
they changed it.
No,
they changed it again?
They changed
Yeah,
it.
they announced it, they changed it, and they changed it back.
They changed it again? Okay.
So it's for everybody now?
Real ding-dongs.
It hasn't, the product hasn't RTM'd yet, so, June 1st, so they could change their mind again.
That's coming close, though. Less than 30 days.
Yeah.
So what I'm consistently mad at Microsoft about is their restore stuff. Like Microsoft spends a lot of time and money investing in, like Oracle competitive checkboxes, but we still have the same clunky all or nothing restores forever, right? It's like if you want to restore like a table, you have to restore the entire file. There are third-party tools you can do object-level restores, with Dell Lightspeed and probably some other backup software. Terry, does Redgate do that? The object-level restore stuff?
I know it
I think
used
you
to.
used. Okay, so maybe it still does. But I get continuously annoyed, especially because Microsoft has embraced this. Oh, we're going to support you using petabytes and petabytes of data. But if you take a backup of that, and then you have to restore a table because some ding dong broke 50,000 rows in part of a table, then you still have to restore your entire database. There's no object level restore natively with SQL Server. There's no way to natively read through a log file in SQL Server without memorizing those crazy fndb log and dump log commands where you have to pass in default 64 times. There's just there's no good intuitive way to figure out when something bad happened and restore to that point. Oracle offers stuff like flashback, where you can flashback a table to a point in time. You can flashback an entire database to a point in time. You can do all this stuff and get really easy, really restorable data. You just get all your stuff back really easily. And I think it's sort of obscene that Microsoft is still making you restore a 5 terabyte database just to get one table back.
And that's Erick's favorite 2016 feature that's not there.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Richie? Since there are still no questions, is there anything from a developer side of things that you wish there was, or you don't really care about, or?
Man, it's not like 2012. 2012 we got a lot of good goodies. In 2014 there was nothing for us, and then 2016, it's the query store, right? I mean the query store. A lot of people talk about the JSON stuff. I am not thrilled with it. I haven't really played with it too much, but it's just going to make things easier to go in and out. But I don't like the XML data type, or XML stuff in SQL Server. So why should I like the JSON stuff in SQL Server? It just doesn't feel right. It's just something else that us as developers can screw up. So that's probably one thing that I'll be keeping an eye on over the next few months is the JSON data type and kind of how we could use some of that responsibly and not like in the way we've seen some XML data types going awry.
Yeah, like what developer bones got thrown in 2016? Like what drop if exists and it's the string splitter. I think that was it. Like there's been no further improvements to windowing functions make using range over rows not be horrible. So. No further improvements to T-SQL to make it more ANSI-compliant or add in more the ANSI standard stuff to it. So it's pretty underwhelming to me, at least from a development standpoint.
Yeah, and if us as a community aren't screaming about it, then it's going to be low on the totem pole. So I think there was a fair amount of people screaming about the JSON stuff because practically every other database has JSON compliant, so
practically every other database has a way to concatenate comma delimited strings without using for XML path in some voodoo language too.
Well, you could always just use .NET for that, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I have .NET, Richie. Me. Come on.
Well, that's why I'm here, right? That's why I'm here. No other reason. Just not to write .NET.
Just to make my string concatenating life easier.
That's right.
We finally got a new question. It's from A Deals again. He wants to know. He says he understands that restoring and verifying backups is the way to go. So good for knowing it. But he says it's not always physically possible. Is doing restore verify only good enough, or do you have another recommendation?
Good enough for what?
I think he's trying to say if he can't test his backups by restoring them somewhere else, is it okay to just do restore verify only and say that your backup's good and not corrupted or something?
I mean, all that does is test the header and make sure that it's a usable backup file. It doesn't actually test the contents of it for anything. So, it's fairly reasonable to assume that, that you can restore that backup, that the header and the format of the backup file are correct. The data within that could still be, bonkers though.
So still run your dbcc check db, right?
When
And
you
when would you say
dbcc check db, turn your page verification on, make sure your backup checksums are on, lots of stuff to do there. Make sure that you're getting alerts for your 823, 824, and 825 errors. Other things.
And we have that all on the web, on the blog. We do,
If
yeah.
you go to brentozar.com/go/alerts, we have that all set up for you.
Yeah. Some good stuff
At least
out there.
The alerts anyway.
Yeah. We'll tell you how to set them up.
Check DB. Yeah, basically.
Sean wants to know if there's a better program that's free to analyze execution plans.
Where have you been? SQL Server Plan Explorer.
That's what we use.
Yep.
It's not just what we use here, it's what we used at previous jobs too.
All right. What are you using, Toad?
That's still a thing?
I guess, yeah. I mean, there's still a Toad World website. I don't know. Maybe someone with MySQL uses it.
Maybe some of those Oracle guys still use it. Because that's when I used it.
Everyone uses SQL Developer with Oracle. Fancy pants one.
Not in the 90s.
Jeff Smith.
Not in the 90s, man.
90s are over, Richie. Sorry.
No!
Sorry.
Next thing you know, Nirvana broke up, right?
No. No,
Well,
they're still together. Don't look at MTV. Don't look at.
Whoa, man.
Just go back and watch I Love the 90s on VH1 On Demand or something.
Kurt Loder will be there. All your friends.
Daisy Fuentes.
Wow. On that note, folks.
I don't think Angie's old enough for these references.
Hey, I
No.
used to watch I Love the
Don't
90s.
bring dude.
On that note, we're going to have to end this episode of Office Hours. Thanks for watching, listening, or reading on the blog. See you all next week.
Goodbye.